said, I'm Dustin. I'm one of Robert's many cousins. Thank you all for coming. We all really appreciate it. Can you guys hear me?
You need to be on the same level.
Better? Same level?
There you go.
Is this better?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Well, there's two things I know about Robert. There's actually a lot more things I know about Robert. But in terms of what he would want me to say in front of all of you, I only know two things about Robert. He was passionate as hell, and he loved pooping. Robert took around a 6-month trip visiting U.S. national parks, and during that trip he sent me 14 postcards with little updates or little things he wanted to say. Half of them were about poops and boobs. Whether it was the time he told me about the bear he saw taking a huge dump, or the time he told me he pooped in the Atlantic Ocean when he was visiting Acadia National Park in Maine, and many in between. I would get middle of the night texts from Robert describing the shape, color, and dimensions of Robert's most significant poos. Moving on. And here comes the serious shit. I've never known someone as passionate about so many things as Robert. He could talk for hours about cars and trucks, guns, anything outdoors, science and physics. And he talked a lot about his plans for the future. He said he wanted to buy one of those big old storage shipping containers and convert it into a house to live in. He said he wanted to buy a Subaru WRX V8 SS9 and makeshift it so he could go roll around and flip in the sand dunes. I just made up those letters. It's not probably a real car. But that was kind of like conversations with Robert were like that. He's shaking his head right now. But man, he could talk. And he spoke with such passion and enthusiasm all the time. And I'd be happy to listen to his same stories and plans over and over and over again. And this is something he got mad at Bob a lot for, was repeating stories. But Robert did the exact same thing, and maybe even worse. But I was happy to listen over and over again because it put me where I am today. On our trips when I was younger, and Robert was working at Marin General in the emergency room, I would always ask him questions about things he saw. What was the coolest thing you saw? What was the grossest thing you saw? What was the funniest thing you ever saw? And he has this really good enema story. Yeah, and he really laid it all out there. But anyway, with all these stories, I remember one of our trips to Sequoia National Park, I started asking different kinds of questions. Have you ever seen a tracheotomy? How does blood flow through the heart? And later, when he finished his bio degree, and I was starting college, we made up a question game. We would try and stump each other all the times with different questions and different facts that we had learned. But Robert's favorite question, like I told you, he liked to repeat himself, so you didn't know that he had already asked me this question, but he said it several times. His favorite question to ask me, what is the single largest living organism on Earth? Anyone have any guesses? Yeah, Magley? It's a mushroom. It's a fungus. It's actually nicknamed the humongous fungus. It's from the Pacific Northwest. It weighs about 22,000 pounds, and it kind of intertwines itself up in living organism, living plant material, and connects itself and extends its roots way deep under the forest floor. We made up a lot of games together, and we even came up with our own team name. We called ourselves the Nuclear Knuckleheads. Anytime we were doing something crazy, we'd jump off a rock and say, "Nuclear Knuckleheads!" And it was our thing. But anyway, it was this stupid science question game we played that pushed me to want to learn medicine and further my education. Admittedly, the frequency and the difficulty of questions decreased as the duration the time of years since we both finished school increased, but we still tried. A year and a half ago, as I was applying to schools, Robert, who had no interest in going back to healthcare, gifted me his stethoscope, and it's the only one I'll ever use. On the bellow of the stethoscope, he wrote, Robert Latham. We all knew Robert, how he loved helping others, he loved hiking and driving, he loved building things, and by God did he love burritos. His all-time favorite fact to tell others about himself was that he was 2013's top taqueria reviewer on Yelp. I'm sure it was true. But this was the direct result for his quest for the perfect carnitas burrito. And I think I'll rest knowing he found it. But Robert loved helping others. He helped me move into my house. He tried time and time again to teach me how to drive a stick. And he helped me and others in 1,000 ways. Helping others was his favorite thing to do. And along that, Robert was someone who did whatever he wanted to do. Whatever fun thing he thought of doing that day, that's what he did. On random hikes, he would just point to the top of a mountain and say, "Let's go to there." He would see a large boulder, point at it and say, "Let's climb on that." We'd stumble across a river, and he would say, "Let's make it flow left instead of right," and proceed to go ahead and build a dam. On his national park trip, he learned how to build a quinzee, which is just a snow igloo. He wrote on his blog post, he said, "I have a goal of making a quinzee so large that I can hang my hammock inside." On one of the postcards he sent, he wrote that he wanted to challenge me to see who can build a bigger quinzee. I know a lot of us think that he was bitter and mean, and scary, and mad at life. But look at these photos around us. Listen to our stories. He loved his life. He loved living in his own world. He lived a lot more than most of us ever will. Have any of you come face to face with a bobcat at the bottom of a 1,600-foot-long cave, 100 feet underground? Don't think so. Well, yeah, so did Robert. I think he was dealt a bad hand and he struggled through it. And I have a lot of regret forever for not better helping him. But I don't think for a second that he was mad at life. He was just trying to find a way to enjoy life and battle his diseases at the same time. And it was obviously harder than any of us can imagine. I once told Robert, people do come out of this, and if anyone can, it's you. Yes, he was still really scary, though. I admit it. I would never tell him that to his face, though. I'll finish off with a quick dumb anecdote. Our second to last little excursion together. After an unsuccessful trek to the top of Mount Whitney, Robert wanted to take me to the top of one of his old favorite rock climbing spots, Mount Conness, just on the east rim of Yosemite. Robert only lasted about a half mile before he decided he didn't want to follow the trail any longer. And he decided to then jump over the river and go for a straighter, more head-on approach. And I knew from that second that we would not get to the top of this mountain. Robert had this conviction that as long as you were going up, you were going the right way. I tried telling him several times that that's not how it works. For the last, I let him lead the way. He was excited. And we eventually came to what appeared to be the last ascent of God only knows what mountain we were on at that point. I firmly believe we were about 3 miles south of Mount Conness. But anyway, we were at the last bit of ascent of a mountain, and it was a 500-foot straight-up vertical boulder field, and I was really scared. But Robert headed off like there was a REI 50% off sale at the top. And I was struggling over every single rock, and it got to the point where I started to kind of fear for my own life, whether it was one slip or one loose rock, and I kind of had a panic attack. I'd never had a panic attack before. I didn't know what it would feel like, but I had one, and I kind of envisioned our lives way in the future. I knew that if I kept climbing that I wouldn't be able to see it. So I yelled up to Robert. I said, yeah, I can't go anymore. And he said, all right. He's already at the top. He yelled back, all right, I'm on my way down. And that was it. He didn't judge me. He didn't pressure me. And I think he saved my life that day. And I owe him more. I owe him so much more than I think I ever gave him. Robert taught me more about life than anyone. Even when he was wrong, he was still trying to teach me. Even when I tried claiming I knew what I was talking about, he said more, and he said he wanted to teach me more. And he meant so much to me, and I hope he knew that. There's absolutely no one like him that I will be able to recreate our experiences with. There is no one like him that I could share our past with. But I can hope one day that I'll pass along his shared memories, the skills he taught me, and the legacy that was Robert Latham. I would like to think of Robert as this family's humongous fungus. Not for the quality of Robert's odor, but for the meaningful impact he has had on this family throughout the years, spreading and intertwining us with his kind heart and love. I will miss so much about you. I will miss your smile, your giant hugs, the soft touch on my back when you sit next to me. I'll miss your enthusiasm. And I'll even miss your opinion on the correct way to wash a fork. On Robert's blog, after a close encounter with a black bear, he wrote, "Keep your head up and your mouth shut. There is an entire world out there that you might just miss if you don't open your eyes and look around from time to time." I will never stop looking for you, Robert. I love you always. I think about you every day. Nuclear knuckleheads for life.